All right, so let's dive into this thing we got here today.
Mm.
We know you're probably juggling a lot right now, a career, maybe kids running around, investments,
Mm.
and you've got crypto in that portfolio. You know what you're doing with it.
Yeah,
Been doing it for a while, right? But you want to make sure that your family is taken care of here in Germany.
right.
And, well, the German tax code,
Not simple.
it's pretty notorious for not being the easiest to figure out, huh?
That's where this book comes in. Steuer-Tsunami Bitcoin 4.0 by Professor Dr. Jorg Andres, who is a tax law expert,
Yeah.
and Albert Queenberger, blockchain forensics expert.
Okay.
It's like a guide, right, to this stuff. The complicated world of crypto in Germany, especially taxes, inheritance, protecting your investments.
Yeah, the book really kind of hit me with how it goes after this big concern. German tax law.
Right.
Doesn't say Bitcoin anywhere in there, does it?
Nope.
But they're still applying it to crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it catches investors off guard, even the ones that have been doing it for a while.
What's fascinating is how Professor Andres explains it all.
Yeah.
Like really breaks down all that legal stuff into plain language.
Yeah.
Explains how they're categorizing your crypto activities, whether it's trading or mining, staking, lending, even airdrops. And all of that's going to impact, how much you owe. But he goes deeper than that. He helps you understand why.
Yeah, and that's important, right? Especially now with all this new stuff coming out, DeFi, NFTs, it's confusing.
Absolutely, yeah. The book even explains like the crypto asset reporting framework, which is global, and how it could impact your privacy, especially if you're investing internationally.
Oh, wow.
Basically requires these crypto service providers to share information about your transactions with tax authorities all over the world. So it kind of helps you prepare for that, understand what it means for your portfolio.
Okay, so let's switch gear a bit. What about inheritance planning? You've worked hard for all of this. You want to make sure things go smoothly for your family.
Absolutely, and the book goes deep into this digital inheritance and how German law applies to crypto assets. It explains the footprint theory, which means your heirs don't just inherit the assets, but any tax liabilities that come with them.
So your family's stuck with figuring that all out if there's no plan.
It could be a headache, yeah.
That's where the practical advice comes in.
Yeah, like how to create a record of your holdings, make sure your family could access everything if something happens. Peace of mind, right? Knowing your family's taken care of.
So we've covered compliance and all that. But let's talk about making the most of your investments,
Right, because the book's not just about following rules, it's about planning.
right?
Professor Anjes shows you legally how to optimize your crypto taxes, using all these allowances and deductions, stuff you might not even know about.
Okay, so working smarter, not harder when it comes to taxes.
Exactly. For example, it talks about year-end strategies, like offsetting gains with losses. Maybe Bitcoin did great this year, but, some altcoins didn't do so well.
Yeah.
The book helps you understand how to time those trades so you're minimizing how much you owe.
Right, right. What about first in, first out, FIFO?
FIFO, yeah, that's a way to track your assets for taxes, assuming the first ones you bought are the first ones you sell. The book explains how it works, how it impacts your capital gains, your losses.
That clarity is good, especially with crypto being so volatile.
Absolutely, and it gets into some advanced concepts, things like liquidity mining, impermanent loss, which, can be confusing for DeFi investors.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned the book's co-author by a blockchain forensic expert.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is a big issue in the crypto world,
Yeah.
right? So how does that expertise tie into all of this?
Well, Queenberger's perspective is invaluable.
Yeah.
He's got that practical experience. He can spot red flags, protect you from scams. It's like having a detective looking out for you in this wild west of crypto.
It's more than just the tech. It's about the people too, right?
Exactly. And the potential for manipulation. He highlights what questions you should be asking before you invest in anything. Due diligence, how to develop that discerning eye, and hopefully avoid making those costly mistakes.
One thing that really stands out to me is how it blends the legal stuff with actual advice.
Yeah, what's remarkable is it gives you real-world examples, templates for documentation, even overviews of popular crypto tracking tools like cointracking.info and Blockpit. It's like having a consultant walking you through each step, making sure you're organized, compliant, all that.
Yeah, that's important, especially since you're probably pressed for time, and who wants to deal with all that paperwork?
Exactly. It acknowledges that keeping track of everything can be a nightmare. It gives you practical tips to simplify it all, even if you're just starting with, a basic spreadsheet.
So it works for different levels of tech comfort, right?
Exactly. And if it gets more complicated, you want more automation, it suggests those dedicated tracking tools, like the ones we just mentioned.
Okay, so let's talk more about those tools. What makes them so valuable? Especially for someone like you who, values expertise and efficiency.
Well, they automate a lot of the tedious stuff. You can import your trades, even enter them manually. And the platform does the work. It analyzes everything, calculates your gains, losses, factors in stuff like FIFO, then generates reports tailored to German tax requirements.
Okay.
They can even help you identify tax optimization opportunities and prepare for audits if that ever happens.
Wow, so they're not just for tax season, it's for staying organized all year round.
Exactly. And that peace of mind, that's priceless.
Absolutely. Now let's dig a bit deeper into some of the legal stuff the book covers. You said earlier that Germany's tax laws don't specifically mention Bitcoin. How does the book deal with that gap?
Well, Professor Andres addresses that head on. He highlights the challenge of applying existing laws to this whole new asset class. The German Income Tax Act doesn't use terms like Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, or tokens. So there's a lot of room for interpretation, which, creates uncertainty and potential issues with the tax authorities.
So it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, in a way. And the book doesn't shy away from that complexity. It examines how the tax authorities are currently interpreting the law and how those interpretations could affect your investments.
So what are some of the key takeaways? What do you absolutely need to know to stay on the right side of the law?
One big one is the difference between economic ownership and legal ownership.
Okay, that sounds kind of complicated. Can you break that down a bit?
It's actually pretty straightforward. Legal ownership is who has the title to an asset. Economic ownership is who actually benefits from it, like using it or if it goes up in value. Think of it like renting a house. The owner has legal ownership, but the tenant has economic ownership because they're living there, right? They benefit if the property value increases.
So with crypto, like if your Bitcoin's on an exchange, you don't technically own it, but you're still responsible for taxes on any profits.
Exactly. And the book explains how this applies to different crypto activities. Trading, lending, staking. It's all about understanding the specifics.
And those specifics can make a big difference when it comes to taxes.
Absolutely. And the book does a great job of explaining all that in simple language, which is what you need to make smart decisions about your investments.
Now, let's talk about blockchain forensics in all of this. The book's co-authored by a blockchain forensic expert, right? How does that expertise play into taxes and legal matters?
Queenenberger adds a really valuable layer of understanding. He explains how those transactions are recorded on the blockchain, how that information can be used to track your activities for tax purposes. So it's not just knowing the law, it's understanding how the technology itself impacts your tax liability.
So there's like a digital trail of all your crypto activity, and the book helps you understand how to interpret it correctly.
Precisely. And there are lots of examples and case studies in there to illustrate the points.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Say you received Bitcoin as a gift. The book explains that in Germany, that's not taxable. But if you sell that Bitcoin later, any gains you make from that sale, that's taxable. So receiving the gift itself isn't a tax event, but what you do with it afterwards is.
So it's about the timing of those events, not just what's taxable and what's not.
Exactly. And the book gives clear guidance on how to figure out your taxes in those situations. It takes the guesswork out of navigating this whole crypto taxation thing in Germany.
One of the things that really impressed me is how up-to-date it is. Crypto's always changing, right?
It's like trying to hit a moving target, but the book manages to keep up with everything. It even covers stuff like the crypto asset reporting framework and its potential implications for your privacy, especially with international investments. It's a global initiative, right? Aims to increase transparency, fight tax evasion in the crypto world. It's a big deal for anyone investing in crypto across borders.
So it's like a global network for sharing tax information.
You could say that, yeah. The book helps you understand those reporting requirements, make sure you're compliant, but it also talks about privacy, offers some strategies for protecting your information.
So it's not just about paying your taxes, it's about being aware of how your data is being used.
Exactly. The book gives you practical guidance on how to balance compliance with privacy, which is a growing concern for a lot of crypto investors.
Speaking of complex and rapidly evolving, I'm curious about how it addresses decentralized finance, DeFi.
Yeah, DeFi is fascinating, but complicated. And the book acknowledges that. It gives you an overview of the main concepts, like smart contracts, and explains how they might be viewed under German law. Smart contracts are essentially self-executing contracts, stored and enforced on the blockchain.
So they're like digital agreements that can automate financial transactions.
Exactly. And the book goes into how these contracts might be classified under German contract law and what that means for your legal obligations. It's about applying traditional legal ideas to this new decentralized world.
We've covered a lot of the technical and legal stuff about crypto, But there's that human element, too. Inheritance planning, protecting your family.
Absolutely, and the book recognizes that, emphasizes communication, preparation. It's not just setting up a digital wallet, it's having those tough conversations with your family, making sure they understand your wishes, know how to access your assets, are prepared for the tax implications.
So it's not just about money, it's about leaving a legacy, one that's financially secure and emotionally responsible.
You said it perfectly. And the book gives you practical advice on how to approach these things. Maybe have a family meeting to discuss your estate plan. Talk about your crypto investments.
Not exactly light dinner conversation.
Might not be, no, but it's important.
Right. And the book helps make those conversations a little less, I don't know, scary, more productive.
Yeah, for sure. It also suggests writing everything down clearly. Avoid any confusion or misinterpretations. Just make things as easy as possible for your family.
One thing I really appreciate is Professor Andres's focus on transparency, ethical behavior in the crypto world.
Yeah, he's a big advocate for doing things the right way. It encourages people to be honest with their taxes, avoid shady stuff. It might be tempting to cut corners, hide assets, but it's just not worth the risk.
The penalties for tax evasion are pretty serious, right? Not to mention the damage to your reputation.
Exactly. It's about building a strong foundation for your wealth, legally and ethically.
What about the future of crypto in Germany? What's the book's take on that?
Well, it captures the excitement, but it stays realistic. Talks about how more institutions are adopting crypto, banks, asset managers, even governments. That could lead to more stability, more regulation. But it also brings up the potential downsides, like increased centralization, which kind of goes against the whole idea of decentralization.
A double-edged sword.
Exactly. And the book helps you understand those competing forces, how to navigate the evolving landscape of crypto in Germany.
We've covered a lot. Taxes, DeFi, the crypto asset reporting framework. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's presented so clearly. It helps you make informed decisions about your crypto investments and your financial future.
That's what makes it so valuable. It's not just about the rules, it's about understanding the opportunities, the risks, how to be strategic.
And for someone like you who values expertise over cost, it's a good investment. Peace of mind, financial well-being.
I couldn't agree more. We've just skimmed the surface of what Steuer-Tsunami Bitcoin 4.0 offers.
There's so much more to explore. We'll be back to dive deeper into this fascinating world.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Before we go on, I think we should maybe take a step back and look at the bigger picture here. The book does a really good job of putting Bitcoin into its historical context.
Okay.
It goes all the way back to the cypherpunk movement, late 1980s, early 1990s.
Cypherpunks. Sounds a little like, I don't know, science fiction or something.
It might sound like it, but these were real people. Activists, cryptographers, they were really worried about privacy and freedom, in the digital world. Saw cryptography as a way to protect those freedoms, create a more decentralized, equal world. They believed in individuals, not institutions, to shape the future of technology.
So Bitcoin came out of that movement.
You could say that, yeah. Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, was definitely influenced by those cypherpunk ideas. The book highlights this early email from Satoshi where he quotes the cypherpunk manifesto. He says, "Cypherpunks write code." It's a statement about, how individuals can create change through technology.
So Bitcoin wasn't just tech, it was a philosophy too.
Absolutely. And that idea of decentralization, individual empowerment, it's still at the heart of Bitcoin today. It's about taking control of your own finances, your data, your future, all of it.
Now, I know you're a tech person, so I'm curious about how the book handles that side of it. Does it get too technical, or does it explain things in a way that makes sense?
I think it does a pretty good job. It explains the basics of blockchain, mining, blocks, digital signatures, but it's clear, concise, it doesn't overwhelm you. It even uses analogies, real-world examples to make it relatable.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, it compares the blockchain to a public ledger. Everyone can see it, but nobody can change it. It's a permanent record of all the transactions. And that makes blockchains so secure.
So it's like a digital notary.
Yeah, you could say that. And it emphasizes that this technology goes beyond just cryptocurrencies. It could change everything: supply chains, voting, even healthcare.
Yeah, the possibilities are pretty exciting.
They are. But let's bring it back to you. The book has some good advice about how to approach crypto investing in Germany specifically.
This is where it gets real, right?
Exactly. It stresses diversification, risk management, doing your own research. It's not about chasing the next big thing. It's about a solid strategy that fits your goals, your risk tolerance.
Be smart, not a gambler.
Right. And it gives you a framework for that. It encourages you to think about your timeline, your goals, how comfortable you are with volatility. Knowledge is power, right?
One thing I notice is the book's emphasis on community. It seems like it's not just about individual investors. It's about a movement towards a more decentralized future.
Yeah, good point. It talks about online forums, social media groups, even meetups. All of that helps people collaborate, share knowledge, support innovation. It encourages you to get involved, learn from others, contribute what you know.
Tap into that collective wisdom.
Exactly. It's a journey, right? And it's better to have support and guidance from people who share your vision.
We've talked about the good stuff, but let's not forget about the risks. Crypto can be dangerous if you're not prepared.
True, security is key. The book spends a lot of time on practical safety advice, choosing a secure wallet, protecting your keys, watching out for scams.
Those scams are getting pretty sophisticated, aren't they? It's not just those obvious phishing emails anymore.
No, they're getting creative, impersonating projects, making fake websites, even using social engineering to trick you into giving up your keys. The book helps you spot those dangers and gives you concrete steps to protect yourself.
Like a security checklist.
Yeah, think of it that way. Be proactive, take responsibility for your own safety.
We've talked legal, technical, financial. What about the philosophy? Does the book address the bigger picture, how this tech impacts society?
Oh, yeah, it does. It asks some really interesting questions about money, government, the future of finance. It doesn't shy away from the fact that Bitcoin challenges how things are done. It encourages readers to think critically, form their own opinions.
So it's not just a how-to, it's a why-to.
Exactly. It's not just about buying and selling. It's about what Bitcoin represents, what it could mean.
One of the most interesting things is digital identity. How does it see blockchain playing a role there?
It's fascinating. It explains how blockchain could create more secure identity systems, decentralized, giving you more control over your data. Imagine a world where you decide who sees your information, not governments or corporations.
That's a big deal with all the data breaches and privacy issues we see these days.
Absolutely. And the book looks at both the good and the bad. It's about imagining a future where we have more control over our digital lives.
The crypto world is all about innovation and experimentation, isn't it? New ideas all the time. Does the book capture that energy?
It definitely does. It highlights how young and evolving this field is. There's so much more to learn, to create. It encourages readers to push the limits, explore new things, help shape the future.
So embrace that entrepreneurial spirit.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about making money, it's about building a better future. More decentralized, more fair.
Well said. And that leads us perfectly into our next topic, non-fungible tokens or NFTs.
NFTs, taking the world by storm, right? And the book has a whole section on this.
Now, for people who might not be familiar, how are NFTs different from something like Bitcoin?
Good question. The book emphasizes that NFTs are non-fungible. Unlike Bitcoin, where every coin is basically the same, each NFT is unique. Think of it like a print of a painting versus the original. Both show the same image, but only one is truly valuable.
Owning a piece of digital history or art.
Yeah, something like that. And that makes a big difference legally and financially. The book explains the German tax laws around NFTs, but it's still early. There are some gray areas.
I'm sure those gray areas are comforting to anyone dealing with German taxes.
It can be tough, but the book offers guidance, helps you understand those uncertainties. It also explores what NFTs can be used for. Digital art, virtual real estate, even representing ownership of physical things.
So an NFT for art might be treated differently than one for, say, virtual property in the metaverse.
Exactly, and the book helps you understand those differences. It also addresses intellectual property rights, which is a big concern. Just because you create an NFT doesn't mean you own the rights to the original thing. The book explains how copyright law applies and how to enforce those rights in a decentralized world.
The Wild West of digital ownership.
In some ways, yeah. But the book gives advice on how to protect your intellectual property. Always do your due diligence.
So be aware of the risks, take steps to minimize them, just like with any investment.
Exactly, and the book helps you do that.
Now, another hot topic is decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs.
DAOs are fascinating, a whole new way of organizing and governing. The book has a whole chapter on this. They challenge how we think about corporate governance.
So how do they work?
They're communities governed by code, not by traditional hierarchies. They allow for decentralized decision-making. Rules and processes are coded into smart contracts on the blockchain.
Like digital cooperatives?
Good analogy. And the book goes into the legal and tax implications, which are still being figured out in a lot of places, Germany included. Lots of potential, but also a lot of complexity.
Sounds like we're still figuring out how DIOs fit into the current system.
We are. The book acknowledges that. But it still provides good insights and guidance. It's a glimpse into the future of organizations. More decentralized, more transparent.
It's clear that Steuer-Tsunami Bitcoin 4.0 is more than just a technical and legal explanation. It's about history, philosophy, community, security, The future.
It's a comprehensive guide. It wants readers to be informed, engaged, responsible participants in the crypto world.
And for someone like you who's already involved in crypto, it provides that deeper understanding, especially about regulations, inheritance, taxes, and security in Germany.
Like having an advisor guiding you through it all, making sure you can make the best choices for your financial future.
Before we wrap up, I want to talk about something else that will resonate with you. Practical advice.
That's what makes this book stand out. It's not just theory. It's full of examples, templates, checklists that you can actually use.
Like a crypto toolkit.
Exactly. And for someone who values their time, that's incredibly valuable. No guesswork, just a clear path. We'll talk about those practical tips in the last part of our deep dive.
Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our deep dive into Steuer-Tsunami Bitcoin 4.0. We've talked about a lot, like the philosophy behind Bitcoin, how complicated German tax law is, NFTs, DAOs, all that.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. And, we've barely scratched the surface of what this book has to offer.
Exactly. And in this last part, I really want to focus on the practical stuff, the advice you can actually use. You're a busy person. You need info you can use to make decisions, take action, all that.
And that's what this book does. It's not just explaining things. It gives you the tools you need to actually navigate the crypto world in Germany.
For example, it gives you a step-by-step guide to creating a digital inheritance plan. You mentioned that was a concern before, right?
Mm-hmm.
It tells you how to document your holdings, choose the right inheritance methods, make sure your heirs can access your assets securely.
It even has templates and checklists to make it easier, avoid mistakes. It's about making that transition smooth for your loved ones. Less stress, less potential for arguments.
And knowing your family's protected, that's got to be worth a lot. The book also helps you evaluate crypto investments. It guides you through assessing the technology, the team, their track record, all that.
Encourages you to ask the right questions, look past the hype, make decisions based on research. Become a smarter investor, avoid those mistakes that happen when you rush into things.
And it doesn't shy away from the German tax code. It gives you tips on documenting transactions, tracking your gains and losses, using tax optimization strategies.
Even has sample documents you can use. Saves you so much time and hassle. It's like having a tax expert right there with you.
Speaking of tax experts, the book really stresses getting professional advice. Even experienced investors can benefit from someone who specializes in German tax law.
Yeah, it's worth it for the peace of mind. And for someone like you who values expertise and planning, it's something to think about.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener? Steuer-Tsunami Bitcoin 4.0 is more than just a book about Bitcoin. It's a resource tailored to your needs, your concerns as a tech-savvy investor, a family man in Germany.
It gives you what you need to not just survive, but thrive in the crypto world. Build a secure future for your family.
It really shows how deeply Professor Andres understands the law, how well he explains things, and his commitment to helping people navigate this exciting but sometimes tricky world of crypto.
If you're serious about crypto in Germany, this book is essential. It's an investment that will pay off for years to come.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it useful.
Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and always do your own research.